The Apache Indians.
Some basic facts about the Apaches. The Apaches spoke the southern Athabascan language. They were originally using bows and arrows, stone ball clubs, spears, and knives. The Apache Indians came from the Alaskan region, Canada, and parts of the American Southwest. We cannot be sure, but we believe they migrated to the south sometime between 1200 and 1500. The tribe migrated south and divided itself to two basic regions. The Apaches have always been very nomadic, meaning that they traveled around, they never settled at one place. Their main food was mostly buffalo meat, hunting with archers and arrows. The Apaches was one of the first tribes to learn how to ride and use horses. The Apache tribe lived in a large region called the Grand Apache, as you see on the yellow spot on the map. The big river called the Rio Grande River divided them into two basic groups. The Apaches have never shown any interest of politics. It was very difficult for the Apaches to have a good relationship with anybody else. They did not like the Spanish people, the Americans, or the Mexicans. Maybe one of the tribes made peace with them, but then another tribe started a war against them, so they did not know what to think. The Apaches did eat berries, but they did not eat fish because they thought it was unclean. After every marriage, the groom moved into the lady's house. Even if the wife dies, he helped them to survive until he got a new wife. That was often a cousin or a sister of his earlier wife. The Pueblos and the Apaches had a good relationship. They traded corn and buffalo meat. But after the Spanish people showed up, the trade between the Pueblos and the Apaches ended. The Apaches have fought 9 big wars since the year 1849. The man on the picture is the chief Geronimo. Some said that he had magical powers and that he could see into the future.
Art and culture. There are 2 ceremonies that were placed for all children. One of them was held just after the child outgrew the traditional cattle board, and it involved cutting the baby's hair off, done by a medicine man. They believed the child would get good health when the child grew up. However, when they got older, they thought that cutting their hair would bring bad luck, so the older ones did not cut their hair. The other ceremony is called the moccasin ceremony. This was to ensure that the child would get a good life, and the ceremony took place when the child was at an age of 2. In the Apache family, the woman was the one who was responsible for cooking, making clothing, and taking care of children and most of the everyday doings. They were also responsible for building the houses or shelters they lived in, called wickiups.
The religion of the Apache tribe was based on animism that contains a spiritual or religious idea that the universe and all natural objects, animals, plants, trees, mountains, and etc. have souls and spirits. They also believed in a monster called the Gila monster, as you can see on the picture. That was a symbol to signify preservation and survival. The Apache tribe also believed that its breath could kill a man. The Apaches are today to be found in Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico. The reservation occupies 1.665 million acres. Today there are over 10,000 Apaches that lives inside this area. Many of them have TV, internet, supermarkets, and fast food restaurants. The kids are going on schools, but they still have their old rituals. On this picture, they are celebrating the youngsters' transition to the adulthood.
The relationship between the Apaches and the government have been tense. Apaches were granted U.S. citizenship under the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, but they did not legally acquire the right to practice their own religion until the American Indian Religious Freedom Act of 1978. They have been given other important rights by many other acts, such as the Indian Civil Rights Act of 1956 and Educational Assistance Act of 1978. Under the Indian Claims Commission Act of 1946, the guerrillas was given $10 million because of the land that illegally was taken from them. The USA refused to give this land back to them. Art created by Apaches usually tells a story of their Indian experience. The teardrop style is an example of this. It represents the deaths of 75 warriors after a battle with the US Army in 1870, when 75 Apache warriors rode off a cliff near Superior, Arizona, rather than face the soldiers and defeat. The symbols that are most used in Apache art is arrowheads, thunder stripes, and the most sacred of all symbols for the Apaches, the sacred hoop, which represents the chief. The Apaches who lived on the plains was the ones who used pottery making the most. They moved around a lot because of the buffalo, and therefore they did not carry many items. But when the Apaches was introduced to Puebloan pottery making, they quickly got skill in the type of